Good morning/afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to speak to the part of you that's been bruised, tested, stretched, and even broken. I want to speak to the part of you that has faced struggles and pain, not to mourn it, but to honor it. Because within that pain lies an incredible, often overlooked force, your power. We all experience pain. It's one of the few things that unites every human being on this planet. Whether it's loss, failure, rejection, or internal battles we don't even have words for, pain is real. But so is growth, and here's the truth. Your struggle is not your weakness. It's the furnace that forges your strength. In the midst of struggle, it's easy to ask, why me? But what if the real question is, what is this trying to teach me? Every setback, every heartbreak, every challenge is a lesson in disguise. Pain is a messenger. It strips away comfort and exposes the raw, honest parts of ourselves that we need to face in order to grow. We often want to run from pain, suppress it, or numb it, but the path to power is not around pain, it's through it. You don't become stronger by avoiding the storm. You become stronger by walking into it again and again until it no longer has power over you. Struggles build resilience. They train your focus. They sharpen your will. The discomfort you feel today is not permanent. It's shaping a version of you that's wiser, tougher, and more capable than ever before. But transformation doesn't come automatically. It comes when we choose to face our pain with courage, when we stop seeing it as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. So if you're going through something hard right now, let me say this clearly, don't give up. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your power. You are being refined, not broken. Turn your pain into purpose. Let your struggles become your fuel. And remember, some of the strongest, most impactful people in history were not those who avoided pain, but those who used it to rise. Pain is not something we seek out, yet it often becomes our greatest teacher. When everything is going well, when life is smooth and comfortable, we rarely stop to question who we are or what truly matters. Comfort breeds routine, and routine rarely demands introspection. But pain disrupts all of that. It interrupts the noise of daily life and forces us into moments of stillness, into reflection, into questions we'd normally avoid. It strips away the surface level identities we wear and introduces us to our truest selves. The version of us that remains when everything else is gone. When you're in pain, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, you begin to see what lies beneath your usual defenses. That's when you realize how strong or fragile your beliefs are. That's when you learn what you've been avoiding, denying, or burying. And in that raw, unfiltered place, a powerful transformation can begin, because you are no longer lying to yourself. You are no longer hiding behind the mask of control or success. Pain reveals your truth, and though it may hurt, there is deep wisdom in that revelation. Pain doesn't only teach us about our weaknesses, it shows us our resilience too. Think back to the hardest moments in your life, the heartbreak, the loss, the failure, the disappointment. At the time it might have felt like your world was falling apart. You may have cried, questioned everything, and felt completely lost. But look at where you are now. You endured, you're still standing. Maybe you're even stronger, wiser, and more grounded because of it. That's the paradox of pain. What feels like the end is often the beginning of something greater within us. Too often, we view pain as a punishment or something to escape. We try to numb it, ignore it, distract ourselves with work, entertainment, or even relationships. But every time we avoid pain, we also avoid growth. Because within pain lies the exact thing we need to face in order to evolve. It's like a mirror that shows us the parts of ourselves that need healing, attention, and honesty. Pain tells us where we're not aligned with who we want to be. It shows us the gap between our current self and our highest potential. When we allow pain to do its work, when we sit with it, listen to it, and ask what it's trying to teach us, we move into a place of deep self-awareness. And self-awareness is the foundation of all transformation. You can't change what you don't understand. You can't grow if you don't know what's holding you back. But pain will show you. It will bring you face to face with your fears, your insecurities, your patterns, your habits. It will break you open in the best way, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you with more truth, more clarity, more power. There is a story inside every scar, and those stories are often more beautiful than the ones written in comfort. Think about people who inspire you, whether they are leaders, artists, athletes, teachers, or everyday warriors. Most of them didn't become who they are because life was easy. They became powerful because they went through something. Something broke them, and they chose to rise anyway. They chose to learn from it. They chose to become better, not bitter, and that choice, the decision to turn pain into wisdom, is available to all of us. There is nothing noble in suffering for its own sake, but there is something deeply noble in refusing to waste your pain. When you decide that your suffering will not be in vain, when you take what you've been through and use it to understand yourself, you begin to step into your true power. You start to understand your own mind, your own emotions, your patterns of reaction. You begin to see how your past has shaped your identity and how you can reclaim control over your future. This is not about being fearless. It's about being honest. It's about having the courage to ask the hard questions. Why does this hurt me so deeply? What is this teaching me about what I value? Where am I placing my worth? What am I afraid to lose? These questions hurt, but they heal. They help you rediscover yourself, often in a more authentic and grounded way. You are not the same person after a struggle. If you let it, pain will carve away the ego, the attachments, the false narratives you've been telling yourself. And in their place, it will leave something real, something unshakable. Pain is not an enemy, it is a revealer. It strips away the lies so you can stand in your truth, and that truth is the birthplace of your personal power. So the next time life knocks you down, don't just ask, why is this happening to me? Ask instead, what am I supposed to learn from this? And who can I become because of this? That shift in perspective is how pain becomes purpose. That is how struggle becomes strength, not by magic, not by chance, but by choice, your choice to grow. There's a strange irony in life. The more we try to run from discomfort, the more it finds new ways to return. We think if we ignore the pain long enough, if we stay busy, stay distracted, it will eventually fade on its own. But it doesn't. It lingers in the background, quietly shaping our choices, our reactions, and even our identities. What we don't confront grows in silence, gathering strength and returning at the most unexpected moments. Avoiding pain doesn't erase it. It postpones the healing and amplifies the suffering over time. We live in a world that encourages quick fixes. If you're tired, drink more coffee. If you're stressed, scroll through your phone. If you're heartbroken, jump into something new. Everything is about numbing, escaping, moving on before we've even sat with what's truly happening inside us. But the truth is, anything we avoid emotionally becomes baggage. It becomes a weight we carry, invisible to others but heavy within us. And the longer we carry it, the more it shapes the way we see the world and ourselves. Avoidance may bring temporary relief, but it always comes at the cost of long-term peace. There is nothing wrong with wanting to avoid pain. It's a natural instinct. Our minds are wired to move toward pleasure and away from discomfort. But there is a difference between protecting ourselves and abandoning ourselves. Every time we turn away from what hurts, we abandon a part of our healing. We send a message to ourselves, this is too much for you. But that's not the truth. The truth is that we are capable of facing hard things. We are capable of sitting in discomfort and growing through it. We just haven't been taught how. We often think that facing pain means falling apart, but more often it means falling into clarity. When you stop running and finally sit with what's hurting, you begin to understand it. You begin to see where it's coming from, what triggered it, what memory it's attached to, what belief it's reinforcing. Avoidance blocks this understanding. It locks the pain in a dark room and pretends it isn't there, but it's always listening, always affecting us in the background. Only by turning the light on and opening the door can we begin to release it. Avoidance isn't just about ignoring pain, it shows up in subtle, everyday ways. It's the overthinking, the constant need to stay busy, the short temper, the withdrawal, the inability to sit in silence. It shows up in addictions, in self-sabotage, in people pleasing, in perfectionism. We build entire lives around not feeling certain emotions, but the cost of that avoidance is authenticity. We lose touch with who we really are because we're too busy hiding from what we fear we can't handle. Facing your pain doesn't mean drowning in it. It means giving it a voice. It means letting yourself feel without judgment. It means being honest about what hurts, even when there's no one else to understand it. When you finally stop running, you'll often find that the pain isn't as terrifying as you thought. It's the resistance, the running, the hiding, that's what exhausts you. The pain itself is a message. It's your body, your soul, your spirit trying to say something important. And when you listen, you grow. There's a strength that can only be developed through presence. You cannot build inner peace by pushing discomfort away. You build it by walking through the fire and realizing you can survive it. Every time you choose presence over avoidance, you reclaim your power. You take ownership of your emotional world instead of letting it control you in silence. Some of the deepest transformations come not through dramatic changes, but through quiet moments of honesty. The moment you stop pretending you're okay, the moment you stop blaming others and ask yourself, what am I not willing to face? That's where the shift begins. That's when healing has a chance to begin. Not because the pain has disappeared, but because you've finally made space for it to be seen, felt, and understood. There is no shame in struggling. There is no weakness in hurting. The real strength is in choosing to face it, to sit down with your discomfort like an old friend and say, okay, I'm listening now. That single act of courage changes everything. It changes how you relate to yourself. It changes how you show up in the world. It changes your energy, your relationships, your decisions. Because once you stop running, you stop reacting. You stop being driven by fear and you start being guided by awareness. Avoidance delays not just healing, but joy. When we numb ourselves to pain, we numb ourselves to everything. You can't selectively shut off emotions. So when you shut off sorrow, you also shut off wonder, love, excitement, creativity. When you run from fear, you also run from courage. When you block sadness, you also block the capacity for deep connection. Facing pain reopens the full range of what it means to be human, and that is where life becomes beautiful again. You were never meant to carry everything in silence. You were never meant to push your truth so far down that it becomes poison. Life isn't about avoiding suffering. It's about learning how to sit with it, work through it, and let it shape you into someone more conscious, more grounded, more alive. The longer you avoid what hurts, the longer you postpone who you're truly meant to become. But the moment you choose to face it, that's the moment everything begins to change. Discipline is not something you're born with. It's not a personality trait that only a few lucky people have. It's a quality that is forged, shaped, and molded through the pressures of life. And most of the time, it is born out of struggle. You don't develop real mental strength when things are easy, when life is smooth, when everything goes as planned. You build discipline when you're tired, when you're stretched thin, when you want to give up but choose not to. That's the training ground of the mind. Every challenge life throws at you is not just a test of your endurance. It's an invitation to sharpen your focus, to train your attention, to gain control over your impulses. It is during difficulty that your mind learns what it means to choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. That choice, the one you make every day to keep going, to keep showing up, to keep moving forward despite resistance, that is where mental discipline is born. Think about the last time you wanted to quit something. Maybe it was a commitment, a dream, a relationship, or even a promise to yourself. What did your mind say? Probably something like, this is too hard, or it's not worth it, or you're not strong enough. These are not facts. These are mental habits that have been reinforced over time. But here's the truth. Just as the mind can be conditioned to retreat, it can also be trained to persist. Mental discipline is about learning to sit with that discomfort and not be ruled by it. When you're in pain, when the stress builds up, when the excuses start whispering, you have a choice. You can collapse into the story your mind tells you, or you can breathe, center yourself, and remind yourself why you started. The people who develop powerful discipline are not those who never struggle. They are the ones who face their struggle with a level of presence that doesn't allow them to be consumed by it. We live in a world that encourages convenience. Everything is about shortcuts, hacks, quick results, but discipline is the opposite of that. It's the muscle you build every time you choose the harder path because it aligns with your values. It's the ability to delay gratification, to resist urges, to keep your word even when no one is watching. That doesn't come overnight. It comes through repetition, through discomfort, through falling and standing back up again. Your mind is like a wild horse. It will run wherever it wants unless you train it. Without discipline, your emotions, distractions, and impulses will take control. But when you develop mental discipline, you become the one steering the course, and challenges, rather than being obstacles, become training partners. They reveal the areas where your mind still reacts rather than responds. They show you where your patience breaks, where your willpower fades, where your habits fall apart. And in those very moments, you have the chance to build something stronger. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about the way you talk to yourself when you fail. Do you spiral into shame or do you adjust and keep going? Discipline is knowing that missing one step doesn't mean you throw away the entire journey. It's understanding that progress is messy and growth is non-linear. The disciplined mind doesn't seek comfort. It seeks mastery, and mastery only comes through deliberate, repeated effort in the face of challenge. People often wait to feel motivated, to do the hard things, but mental discipline doesn't wait for a feeling. It creates action regardless of it. Motivation is emotional, discipline is intentional. And every time you act with intention when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when no one applauds you, you reinforce a mindset that cannot be shaken by circumstance. Real mental strength is quiet. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's built in the early mornings when you choose to start your day with purpose. It's built in the evenings when you reflect, even when you're exhausted. It's built in the moments when you say no to what is easy and yes to what will make you better. These choices seem small, but over time they create a foundation so solid that even when storms come, you remain unshaken. Every challenge you face is shaping you, not breaking you. You may not realize it in the moment, but your struggle is doing something powerful. It's training your mind to focus under pressure, to stay calm in chaos, to keep going when most would stop. And that, more than anything, is what separates the weak mind from the strong one. Not talent, not luck, but the ability to keep going. Discipline is not about living a rigid or emotionless life. It's about creating structure and resilience so that your emotions don't control you. It's about showing up for yourself even when you don't feel like it. It's about making choices today that your future self will thank you for. And the more you do this, the easier it becomes. Not because life gets easier, but because your mind becomes stronger. There's a version of you that already exists. The version that doesn't give in to fear, that doesn't crumble under stress, that doesn't quit just because it's hard. The only thing between you and that version is repetition, commitment, and the willingness to face challenges head on. You're not born with mental discipline. You build it, you earn it, and once you do, no struggle can take it away from you. Pressure has a way of revealing what lies beneath the surface. It exposes weaknesses, yes, but more importantly, it invites strength. The mistake many people make is thinking that pressure is something to avoid. But pressure, when applied with awareness and purpose, is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It is the essential condition for transformation. Nothing evolves without tension. No diamond is formed without being pressed under the weight of the earth. No sword is forged without the heat of the fire and the strike of the hammer, and no person grows without being placed under controlled, focused pressure. We often wait for the perfect conditions to push ourselves. We say, when I feel ready, I'll start, or once life calms down, I'll get serious. But that's not how growth works. Growth is not born out of comfort or convenience. It's born when you deliberately challenge yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it stretches you to your limits. That stretch, that sacred place between what feels manageable and what feels just out of reach, is where you transform. Not by accident, by choice, you choose to lean into the pressure, not be crushed by it. You choose to take the heat and let it shape you rather than run from it. Controlled pressure is not chaos, it's intentional. It's the kind of pressure you apply when you wake up early to train your body even when you're tired. When you sit in meditation, in silence, even when your mind wants to escape. When you hold yourself accountable to your values, even when it would be easier to compromise. It's the effort you give when no one is watching, when no applause follows, when the only thing pushing you is the vision of who you are becoming. This pressure, when it's guided by purpose, becomes a force of creation. It demands more from you than you think you can give, but in the process, it reveals to you how much you're actually capable of. It's in the repetition of small, difficult things that you start to see new strength arise. It's in doing what's hard now that you begin to unlock the freedom you're chasing later. You train under pressure so that when the real storms of life hit, you're not shaken, you're ready. There's a discipline to controlled pressure. It's not about pushing yourself mindlessly into burnout. It's about knowing when to step up, when to stretch, when to breathe, and when to rest. It's about tuning into your inner world and asking, is this discomfort helping me grow, or am I escaping something deeper? True growth isn't punishment, it's practice. It's the daily, steady application of effort. It's refining, shaping, adjusting, not to prove anything to the world, but to become aligned with the highest version of yourself. Sometimes the greatest pressure isn't physical, it's internal. It's the emotional weight of choosing to forgive when anger would be easier. It's staying true to your principles when others bend theirs. It's carrying the responsibility of leading others while still healing your own wounds. These pressures don't show up on the outside, but they build a resilience that no external struggle can touch. The more you can endure these quiet trials, the more unshakable you become. Controlled pressure also brings clarity. When you're in it, the noise fades. The distractions lose power. You focus. You prioritize. You become aware of what truly matters. What used to seem overwhelming begins to feel manageable because you've trained your mind under fire. You've conditioned yourself to stay calm when others panic, to keep moving when others freeze. That's the gift of pressure. It doesn't just build you physically or emotionally, it shapes your character. And the more you expose yourself to it, the less intimidating it becomes. What used to feel like a mountain starts to feel like a stepping stone. You stop fearing the weight. You begin to trust yourself under it. You begin to seek it, not out of self-punishment, but out of purpose, because you've realized that everything you want, growth, peace, strength, mastery, is on the other side of controlled challenge. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs come not during rest, but right after the moment you thought you couldn't go any further. You push a little more, breathe a little deeper, focus a little harder, and something inside clicks. A shift happens, not outwardly, but internally, and once it does, you carry that shift with you into every part of your life. You begin to operate from a new standard, not because someone told you to, but because you've earned it. Controlled pressure is not meant to crush you. It's meant to reveal the parts of you that were asleep, the parts that were waiting to be activated. You don't know how powerful you are until you've been tested. And those tests, those moments of stress and struggle are not roadblocks. They are gateways. Through them you unlock discipline. Through them you learn endurance. Through them you meet the version of yourself that can't be shaken by fear, doubt, or failure. So don't run from the tension. Don't fear the pressure. Choose it. Apply it. Learn from it. Let it mold you into something greater. Because when pressure is used with intention, it stops being something to survive and becomes something that transforms. It's a strange truth about life. The more we run from something, the more power we give it over us. We think we're escaping it. We think we're outsmarting it. But in reality, we're feeding it, giving it space in our mind, our emotions, our identity. Avoiding the thing we fear doesn't dissolve its grip, it deepens it. We become bound to it, haunted by it, reacting to it even when it's not present. That is the trap of avoidance. That is the quiet slavery we don't recognize until it controls us from the shadows. Fear, pain, insecurity, shame, these are not enemies to be outrun. They are signals. They are messengers trying to tell us where we're not free. But instead of listening, we hide, we distract, we numb. And every time we do, we unknowingly hand over another piece of our freedom. What you won't face owns you. What you avoid shapes your life in invisible ways. It defines what risks you take, what love you accept, what dreams you chase. The very things we avoid become the walls around us. And over time, those walls become a prison we don't even see. True freedom is not the absence of struggle. It's the mastery of it. It's the ability to look what scares you in the face and say, "You don't control me anymore." But you cannot reclaim that power through avoidance. You reclaim it through presence, through standing still long enough to feel what's uncomfortable, through asking yourself hard questions and not running from the answers. You confront the shadow, not to be destroyed by it, but to bring light to it. You bring awareness to your fear so you can dissolve its grip. Every time you run, you reinforce the belief that you are too weak to face it. But every time you choose to turn toward the discomfort, something inside you changes. The fear begins to shrink. The shame loses its sting. The memory that once haunted you loses its power, because now you're no longer its prisoner. You're its witness. You're no longer controlled by it. You're confronting it with conscious presence, and that is what begins the transformation. Running from your emotional wounds doesn't heal them, it deepens them. We carry wounds that were never tended to, pain we never spoke about, truths we never admitted. And because we haven't faced them, we act them out in our behavior, our relationships, our choices. We lash out, we shut down, we overcompensate, we perform for acceptance. But all of that stems from one source. We've run so long from what hurt us, we've forgotten what it's like to feel whole. There's a kind of peace that comes only when you stop running, when you sit down with the pain you've buried, when you open the door to that room inside you that you locked up long ago. At first, it's overwhelming. It feels like too much, but stay with it. Breathe through it, because once that door is open, you no longer need to hide. And in that honesty, in that raw confrontation, you discover something astonishing. The thing you feared the most had no real power over you. It was your avoidance that gave it strength. Freedom begins the moment you stop hiding from yourself, and it doesn't matter how long you've been running. It doesn't matter how many masks you've worn or how many distractions you've buried yourself in. The moment you turn inward and choose to see yourself fully, without judgment, without denial, you begin the process of liberation. You begin to reclaim your energy, your voice, your truth. Most people are not free, not because something external is holding them back, but because they've never faced their internal chains. The chain of needing approval, the chain of avoiding pain, the chain of old stories they never questioned. We build entire lives around avoiding certain feelings, but at what cost? At the cost of authenticity, at the cost of connection, at the cost of peace. You cannot be truly present in your life if you are always running from a part of yourself. What you run from, you fear. What you fear, you give power to. And what you give power to ends up dictating your path silently, invisibly, relentlessly. But the moment you face it, the moment you stop shrinking back and instead step forward, you begin to reverse that grip. You begin to lead your own life again, not as a reaction to fear, but as a conscious act of power. There is a version of you on the other side of fear, a version of you who doesn't need to control everything to feel safe, who doesn't need to please everyone to feel worthy, who doesn't need to hide behind strength to avoid vulnerability. That version isn't a fantasy. It's already within you, buried under the layers you put on to protect yourself. And the only way to meet that version is to stop running and start facing. The journey is not easy, but it is real, it is freeing, and most of all, it is worth it. Because once you stop running, once you begin to face what you thought would break you, you realize that nothing outside of you has that kind of power. Only what you avoid controls you, but once you face it, it no longer owns you. You do, in a world that never stops moving. Stillness feels unnatural, it feels unfamiliar, it feels like doing nothing, But stillness is not emptiness, it's not laziness, it's not weakness. Stillness is where truth lives. It's where the noise dies down and the signal becomes clear. It's where the masks fall off and the real self begins to emerge. You can't hear your intuition in chaos. You can't process your pain if you're always in motion. You can't see clearly when your mind is racing, reacting, running. Stillness is not a retreat, it's a return to yourself. We have trained ourselves to believe that the faster we move, the more we achieve. That if we just keep grinding, keep going, keep filling every moment, we'll eventually feel fulfilled. But motion is not always progress. Busyness is not always purpose. And distraction is not peace. Most people are not tired from what they're doing. They're tired from running from what they're not facing. And what they need isn't more action. It's stillness. A space where the mind stops spinning and starts seeing. It's in the silence that the truth you've been avoiding starts to whisper. It's in the pause that the next step becomes obvious. When you stop, breathe, and listen, you realize that the answers were never outside of you. They were buried beneath the noise, beneath the opinions, the fear, the conditioning, but you were too loud to hear them. Stillness is how you tune in. It's how you separate what's real from what's reactive. It's how you distinguish urgency from importance and drama from direction. Stillness is where power grows, because only in stillness can you see your thoughts without becoming them. Only in stillness can you feel your emotions without being ruled by them. The mind, left unobserved, will pull you into endless stories. Stories of fear, stories of regret, stories of who you think you should be. But when you become still, you begin to observe. You begin to witness. And in witnessing, you create space. Space between the impulse and the action, between the thought and the belief, and in that space clarity is born. This clarity isn't intellectual. It's not something you force. It's something you uncover. It rises naturally when the mind quiets, and from that clarity decisions come, not rushed, not desperate, but aligned. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop being led by pressure and start moving from presence. Stillness is not passive. It's one of the most powerful forms of discipline. It's easy to keep moving, to keep talking, to keep reaching. What's hard is to stop, to sit, to be. It's hard to face what comes up in the quiet, but that's exactly why it's necessary. The emotions you suppress, the patterns you ignore, the inner wounds you haven't acknowledged, they all surface in the silence. And it's in facing them, not avoiding them, that you grow. You can't heal what you won't feel. You can't break cycles you won't look at. Stillness is what allows the unseen to rise so it can be released. The most grounded people in the world aren't those with the loudest voices or the busiest schedules. They're the ones who have made stillness a practice, who return to themselves often, who don't rush their answers or compromise their inner peace to meet outside expectations. They've learned that clarity doesn't come from more information, but from more presence. That peace isn't something you find. It's something you remember, and you remember it in stillness. When you practice stillness, you begin to feel life more fully. You notice the breath. You sense the tension in your body. You feel the subtle energy beneath your emotions. You become present with your pain, not to suffer through it, but to understand it. You realize that the discomfort you've been running from is not the enemy, it's the teacher. And in stillness, you become the student again, humble, receptive, aware. So many of us are addicted to solving problems, fixing things, making something happen. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying to change everything and simply become still. Because in stillness, transformation doesn't come from force. It comes from realization, from seeing things clearly for the first time, from recognizing that you are not your thoughts, your past, or your pain. You are the awareness behind all of it, and that awareness is untouched, steady, whole. This is where strength is born, not in pushing, but in perceiving, not in control, but in clarity. Stillness isn't a place you visit when you're exhausted. It's a state of being you can cultivate every day. A few minutes of deep, present silence can reset an entire chaotic day. A moment of stillness before a decision can save you months of confusion. A breath of presence in the middle of anger can prevent years of regret. Everything becomes clearer when you stop rushing. Every storm feels smaller when you return to the calm center within you. You realize that most of what you feared was noise. Most of what overwhelmed you was temporary. Most of what seemed urgent wasn't essential. But you can only see that when you stop. And when you stop long enough, the world doesn't collapse. Your worth doesn't vanish. Your dreams don't disappear. What disappears is the illusion that you had to carry it all, fix it all, and do it all right now. What rises in its place is clarity, presence, and power, the kind that cannot be shaken by chaos because it's rooted in stillness. So what does it all mean, this journey through pain, pressure, fear, and stillness? It means you were never meant to be destroyed by struggle. You were meant to be sharpened by it. Your pain is not proof of your weakness. It's the birthplace of your strength. Every challenge, every fear you faced, every weight you carried, was preparing you for a deeper truth, that you are stronger, wiser, and more capable than you ever imagined. Growth doesn't come from escape. It comes from pressure, from presence, from meeting life head on with courage instead of avoidance. We rise not when we avoid suffering, but when we transform it. We stop being victims of our past and become students of it. We stop running and begin reclaiming our power, because the greatest shift you can make is internal. To stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this awakening in me?" And from that place everything changes. Pain becomes purpose, fear becomes fuel, struggle becomes strength, and silence, stillness, becomes your compass. You begin to walk not as someone who is trying to escape life, but as someone who has faced life fully and come out the other side. Wiser, quieter, bolder, this is your power, not something given to you by the world, but something discovered within you through the fire. So hold your head high, not because it's easy, but because you now know every moment of pain had a purpose. Every struggle carried a seed, and from those seeds you now rise, not broken, but rebuilt, not weaker, but stronger, not lost, but awakened,